Hello. It's just me today, you guys. It's just me. For the whole show, it will just be me. No, I'm just kidding. But welcome to CASAA Live, everyone. Right now, it is just me. We do have a special guest that we'll be bringing in soon. And hopefully, possibly, fingers crossed, we do have Alex joining us. We've got Kristen in the background today. Hey, Kristen, thank you so much. So she's going to be doing all of the background CASAA live stream magic for us. It is Saturday, everybody. We're here. It's 420. So if you're out there celebrating and elevating, I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're staying safe and staying hydrated, and you've got all the snacks and good things for the day. But thank you, everybody, for being here. A whole bunch of people in chat already. Fly Arab, Adrian, Skip, hello. Steve, Green-Eyed Lady, welcome, welcome. Damien, Vicky, Michael, welcome, welcome, everybody. We're definitely going to bring in our special guest. Addy Tuney is not only in chat, but he's on the show today. We're going to be discussing a whole kind of plethora of advocacy, consumer advocate stuff, what it's like being in a flavor ban state. Addy is an incredible advocate. I know everybody here in chat knows him well. I've interviewed him in the past on old streams and things of mine, so I'm excited to get into this conversation with him. So what do you say, Kristen? Why don't we bring Addy right in? There's the man. I was waiting for a bumper, to be honest with you. I see her in the background laughing. I was waiting for the bumper, but that's okay. We don't need a bumper. It's too loud anyway. Welcome, Addy. Thanks for being here, brother.
Logan, always a pleasure hanging out with you, bro.
Yeah. The legend that is Addy, Damien says.
God.
The legend that is Addy. He truly is. For those of you who don't know Addy or Dale, the man, I'm pointing the wrong way. I don't know which side of the screen he's on here. The man is an advocate powerhouse, a great friend. I've had the opportunity to interview him in the past. I've been on shows with him in the past. Addy, before we get into, the nuts and berries of this conversation, for folks who don't know you, I just want a quick little background, how you got into all this, kind of, your story into getting into vaping and why you started advocating for this in the first place.
Oh, sure. Yeah. My story is a little different than most people. I took my mom to her general practitioner back in 2013 because she needed a hip replacement. And they told her, well, we're not going to okay for the surgery unless you quit smoking. So they saw the look on my mom's face. And the nurse said to me, take your mom to the local vape shop that just opened up. So I did. 6 days later, my mom had transitioned. I transitioned and my wife. So it was a 3-for-1 deal.
Yeah. Wow. What year was that?
2013.
2013. So you've been vaping a while.
Yeah.
No popcorn lung yet?
What's that?
No popcorn lung yet?
No, I'm good.
No popcorn lung, no double lung transplants.
All good.
None of that. Yeah. 11 years. Wow. Well, good on you. Good on you for sure.
Yeah,
as far as getting into advocacy goes, like I'm assuming a lot of that right there was a big reason to get involved in this. How did that kind of happen? At what point were you like, you know what, I got to start talking about this?
A couple of my good vaping friends, dear Addy and Giancarlo, he had Omegaddon e-liquid company. They were saying, we need to do something to raise some money for advocacy, raise awareness. So that's when, those two and me and Fresh 03 started getting heavy into it, and the more you get into it, the more you realize, capitalism, whatever, right? Make money. Yeah, but they don't care about the smokers dying. They just want to keep that money rolling in, big healthcare, big tobacco, big pharma. It's sickening, and then all the NGOs, they got to get their funding too. They started out saying, oh, this is great. Yeah, let's get some people off smoking. But when it took off like wildfire, they're like, oh my God, we might put ourselves up right out of business by promoting this. So, it's just a thing where I kind of felt I had to advocate for vaping.
Sure. I think that was the kind of the same thing for me as, finally getting online and hearing everybody's stories. And then you start seeing things like, campaign for tobacco-free kids, and these organizations knew at the time, PAVE, and them rattling all these lies off while you're sitting here smoke-free, feeling better. Your friends and family are feeling better. All these people who are doing so much better now that they've finally quit smoking. And then you start hearing all of these lies and you're like, wait a minute. It's just not true. And then down the rabbit hole you go into the world of vaping and tobacco, and the rabbit hole runs deep.
Yeah, it does. And
it really does.
understand.
It really does. But I feel, it is. You kind of just feel like you have to start saying something.
Yeah, and people understand who never smoked. They don't know that feeling. That what an amazing feeling is to finally not, okay, where's my smokes? Where's my lighter? Do I have enough for my 8-hour shift today? It's like when you don't need that anymore. It's like, it's just an amazing feeling. You start to smell again. You start to breathe better again. It happens fast,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I guess that brings us into, now the present. You and I both live in New York. We both live in a flavor ban state. What is that like for you personally? I know that you kind of have a similar situation to me in regards to being able to go buy things. But for you or for your friends locally or wherever else in the state, let's talk about the state of New York, because this also applies to states like Massachusetts and other states. There's 6 or 7 states now that we have enacted flavor bans. And this has become difficult. This is not the same as it was in 2016, 2017, things like that.
Yep. And, a lot of shops had closed, but a lot of shops diversify. We talked about that pre-show a little bit, about, now a lot of the shops are selling the glass part, and they had diversified just to stay in business. But thank goodness, like most of the shops around me, if you ask for flavored e-liquid, they still have it, but it's just not out in the open.
Right. Yeah, it's just not out on display.
I mentioned the shop, but I was just poking around 2 days ago. I visited a shop, and I said, what do you have in strawberry? It's like, okay.
Yeah, sure. So maybe it just, a lot of shops out there are just kind of tucking it behind the shelves for now, and you just got to know to ask the right question.
Yeah, any vapors out there, and you're having a problem getting the flavors, and you still have a local shop or even a tobacco shop, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, I think too, there's a lot of shops out there, and I don't have a better word for it other than being ballsy. I've walked into shops, even in my town, where I've walked in and they still have e-liquid on display, but all of it is 0 milligram, right? And they think they're being smart or tricky here, or like there's a loophole there where there isn't. But they're like, oh yeah, no, this is fine. If you want nicotine, we can do that. We just can't sell it in the bottle. And for folks out there, if you walk into a shop that has it out on display in New York, it's not the right way to go about it. But there are shops also still doing that. Are you local to any I guess convenience stores that have like disposables and things out? Because that's another thing that I still see in my town. Out on display.
I never go, when we get gas, I never go inside. Yeah. I mean, they have the views,
sure,
and the big tobacco stuff, by the cigarettes, thank God, which is great, right? But
I agree. CASAA supports that like to the fullest. I think it was one of the best things that came through with the deal with Juul and everything, moving those products right up next to Marlboro's, and then having RJ has done product placement kind of on the cigarette wall, if you will. Yeah.
And and it's kind of sad because a lot of the pharmacies took those products out.
Yeah.
They had them for a while, local to me, but now I never see them in pharmacies anymore.
Yeah, I think CVS was one of the first ones, I believe, to do that, and then a lot of them followed suit right alongside. Some of them don't sell cigarettes at all, no tobacco products, no nicotine products other than pharmaceutical nicotine products, product like replacement products. But some of them still sell alongside Nicorette and stuff. They'll still sell cigarettes, but no vapor products.
Right.
Which
And
is
like my Dollar General, it's like $16 a pack for whatever, pack of cigarettes you want, but no harm reduction products.
Yeah. Now you're in a similar situation to me, so we can kind of both talk about this. In New York, we're one of those states that is I don't know, blessed, I guess, to have numerous Native American reservations here. And I'm so grateful to the folks on the reservations who are continuing. Alex is here. Alex, everybody. Thanks for joining us, boss. Welcome to work. Oh, you have no mic. So he's half here, everyone. He's half here.
Am I here now?
You are here now. Welcome to the New York Vape Show, everybody. No. Welcome. We were just kind of talking about the state of New York and, flavor ban situation, what it's like here for consumers. Addy and I are both fortunate that we live near reservations, so we were kind of getting on that topic. I'm about 20 minutes away from a reservation, so I can make a drive out. There are a number of shops that are still selling, you name it, everything available. And Addy, you have a similar situation as well?
Yes. Yeah, I'm really close, like 20 minutes away. Yeah, and there's like a plethora there too. It's like there's one shop I can't remember them. Well, I'm not going to mention the name anyway, but you walk in and it's like almost all disposables.
It's almost like nothing happened in New York, right?
Yeah.
And
then there, you go to another one, a well-known name brand that used to have shops all over the country, and they're kind of like the old school, just a tiny bit of glass, but mostly, all the hardware, even still have rebuildables there.
Yeah. Wow. That's one thing that none of the shops that I go to have. Rebuildables have gone the wayside. If I want rebuildables here, especially in New York, I have to find the one that I want, right? And then I have to get a hold of somebody who's willing to play middleman for me. So I order it and then I pay them extra for shipping and then they send it my way.
Oh, God.
Because, otherwise, sure, when it comes to refillable pods or, a few tanks or things like that,
Yeah, and I was surprised when I picked up this week local, they had some rebuildables in there too. I was really surprised. It was one or two, but they still had them.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Alex, I asked Addy earlier around kind of both of our areas, as far as where you're at in New York. And again, you don't have to mention names or specific places, but are there shops, whether it's like a convenience store or gas station, where they have products openly on display? Is that something you see?
Not so open. There are shops. I know there's a gas station. Rumor has it you can just walk in and ask for the menu. And that, but nothing really on display. There is still a vape shop, not naming names, but they had their own brand of liquid. I was thinking about going in there. I drove by there the other day and I thought, I should pop my head in. I didn't expect to see their sign still on the door. I thought they would have moved on. But so they're still there, branded as a vape shop. I just haven't been in there in a while. I assume it's kind of similar where it's a lot of hardware and rebuildable stuff. And then, the others either closed down or turned into glass shops.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I've never been to the reservation up here, but we are close to, I think, Akwesasne.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like an hour away.
Yeah.
I know even before New York banned flavors, the local vape shop was having a hard time competing with the reservation on, at least on price.
Yeah. Again, with reservations and taxes and things like that, it's a lot. I would just assume cheaper. It is here and it always has been here. Just because of, taxes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 20 minutes away from Tonawanda, and there are a plethora of smoke and vape shops out there that are just a mix. You know, we talk about diversifying your products, and a lot of the shops on the reservation near me are that way. You can kind of walk in and there's you know, the wall of cigarettes and cartons and $20 cartons and things like that, and you can move through to the glass section, you can move over to the e-liquid section and the cannabis section and the Delta section, and there's one you walk in and it's just a display case of knives, and then you choose which direction you go from there. So, you know,
Hey, on your way out.
yeah. So yeah, I think, you know, for New York at least, you know, we're kind of fortunate to still have, you know, reservations and areas where you can go. But I was telling Addy, here in my town, not only is there, you know, I'm not going to name the gas station, but there's a gas station where disposables are still openly on display, like very prominently, like name brand 5% high milligram disposables out on in display cases. And then there's
That's
an
the power
actual
of
vape shop in this town. Yeah, there's a vape shop here in town where they have a wall of e-liquid still, but it's all 0 milligram. And I asked him about this. I was like, this was like pretty shortly after you know, the ban went through here in New York, and I run in recently and it's still the same way, but it's all 0 milligram. And they were like, no, this is fine. This is fine. If you want nicotine, though, we have nicotine. You just got to add it yourself. And I was like, oh, that's not how it works, man. But that's cool. That's cool. Keep doing your thing.
It's kind of a good thing they kind of left it up to local health departments, because they don't have a clue, you know?
Yeah.
Or the manpower, I assume.
Manpower or
Yeah,
resources
right.
to enforce a lot of it.
Kind of like going back to Australia, they have 10 people for a whole state with 8 million people in it. You know, how are you going to enforce anything there?
And even if they did, I mean, I've actually witnessed this. Again, I'm not naming names, but you know, the locals, they talk to each other, the shop owners.
Yeah.
And so if one of them gets, you know, a sting, they call around and they say, hey, you know, hide your gear. And it's as simple as, you know, taking a box and moving it out to a car. It's not in the store. So,
right. Yeah.
You know, it's pretty easy if you've got that communication tree to avoid getting stung.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that would involve somebody getting hit first.
Yeah. Maybe.
Hopefully not, but probably, yeah.
Hopefully they well, I'm not going to tell people how to break the law, but hopefully they've got something worked out. So.
Hopefully they can figure it out for themselves.
It's like so many shops you can go into in New York still, you know, if they don't think you're, you know, a health department or a cop, you know, you ask them if you have flavors. Well, they go in the back room and come out, you know, hey, I need a strawberry vape, you know, go out in the back and come out with one.
Yeah.
Or like Alex said, hey, can I see the menu?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on the topic of DIY. But DIY is something that you have been involved in for a really long time now. And I do kind of just want to touch base on it, just from, you know, the perspective of living in a state with a flavor ban, what that is like for you, and whether or not you feel like that's still a viable option for people.
You know, it still is. If you do a search for pharma nicotine, you'll find people that still will ship it to you. And you know, the water-based food flavorings are just that. They, you know, they're not banned. They can't ban them because there's so many other uses for them. And the PGVG is really easy to get as well. And you know, like Fresh 03 does a bi-weekly show. I mean, he's moving now, but Wayne DIY or Die does a weekly show. There's a lot of DIY content on YouTube now, and it's pretty much, if you can make a nice tasty omelet in the morning, you can do your own DIY.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
There's just, you know, a few simple rules to follow. You know, keep yourself safe, and it's easy.
That's what I was going to say. It's probably just as safe as making an omelet. You're probably just as much at risk of getting food poisoning from your eggs as you are. Probably more at risk from cooking.
Probably
eggs.
More at risk of getting food poisoning from your eggs. Sure. Yeah.
You know, and that kind of irks me when, you know, and I know it's like some of the hype coming out, like especially Australia. You know, you're taking the danger, or we don't know what's in this liquid. Well, you buy farmer grade stuff and water-based food flavorings. Well, it's really hard to screw it up.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it can be difficult to make it taste good. I've
Right,
had a few
right.
failed recipes over the years,
Well, you're a
with some trial and error, but
Logan, so the first couple mixes are like,
yeah, you're like, there's not something's not quite right here, but it's not going to hurt you. That's the
right.
point.
You just don't
As
like
long as you're kind of in the recommended regions, I guess, of percentages and whatnot. There's a little math to do, and there's some tools you kind of need along the way. But it is still very, I think, approachable for people as an option if you're willing to sit down and learn. I think a lot of folks look at DIY as this really incredibly scary, tedious, I'm like, you have to be a mad scientist, chemist in a lab somewhere to make
it's not
e-liquid.
like that.
And you really don't. I mean, if you, like you said, you can make an omelet. I always thought if you can make a cocktail, if you can make an old fashioned, then you can make a strawberry e-liquid. It's
And there's
that's kind of,
another YouTube channel, Wendy Vapes. God
oh
bless her.
yeah, I know
love
Wendy.
her. She got me and Fresh to show her how to DIY, but she did a YouTube and she did like a whole, she ordered everything. She cut open a box live on YouTube and just started DIYing. So what better tutorial could you get,
Yeah. The unboxing. I've never done this before.
Yeah,
Let's do it together.
Scale, here's my PGVG. Here's everything I need.
Yeah.
Let's see how this works.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any companies. I know we've said it a million times, and we're not going to name names, but there used to be companies too, where you could buy like a whole startup kit to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still exist anymore. You may have to kind of piece together your own starter kit nowadays. But again, things like a scale and maybe, some beakers or something like that are very affordable on places like Amazon or wherever you order, your shoelaces or something online. Like you can,
Right.
you can go find these tools. They're not specialty tools. You're not buying, high-end torque wrenches or something. These are very approachable things. So yeah, as far as living in the state of New York, even though we have all of these flavor bans or whatever, I was just curious to hear your thoughts on whether or not it was still an option, an approachable option for people who might be considering.
There's options out there, and God, whatever you do, don't go back to smoking. It's get into the creative side because it's fun. Once you get the experience, and the e-liquid, making e-liquid is easy, but then you get into the creative side.
Sure. Once you crack that code on how to make a strawberry e-liquid, you're like, wow, well, maybe I can make this. Maybe whatever you start to think up, and that's where the fun really begins.
Right. I'm going to add a little apricot, and that's going to bring the strawberry out a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Alex, I guess I'm going to kind of throw the floor to you, just because I've been doing the brunt of interviewing Addy so far today. I didn't know if you had any questions or whatnot that you wanted to throw at him.
I'm still kind of driving in my head. Sorry, we had like an hour and a half both ways to go to a friend's thing, so I'm woefully underprepared for this. You're doing a great job, Logan.
Oh, no problem. I have a couple questions for you then, Alex.
Shoot, yeah.
Now, and Logan too. Now, I've sent so many letters and emails to my politicians. I don't even get replies anymore. Do you guys run into that as well?
Yeah, it's it's pretty typical. And even if you do get a reply, it's most of the time it's kind of a boilerplate response. We'll keep your comments in mind kind of stuff, which is, it's not worthless. I think, everybody has to know, your messages are landing with somebody in that office. And, one of the reasons why we encourage people to be, polite in their messages is that, the staff run those offices. And if you're ticking them off, then they're not so keen on, I guess, passing along your concerns. But yeah, I mean, it does get to them. I think some of the most like fulfilling one of the more fulfilling parts of this job is hearing our words stated back to us by members of the committee. They've read the communications from their constituents, and they start repeating the information that they've heard. That it's usually coming. Usually they're going to get stuff from the industry lobbyists, but there are times where I can clearly hear what our members have written in. So it's good. And every now and then you do get that one lawmaker who's like, oh yeah, I totally agree with you. This bill is garbage. I'm not voting for it. And so
and there was a couple good positive comments on the oversight committee hearing, it was nice to see that.
With Calif getting grilled.
Yeah.
There
was a couple politicians, well, and even the chairman had a couple positive things to say about nicotine vaping.
Yeah, I mean, it should be no secret, a lot of those, the lawmakers, especially on the Republican side, were educated beforehand. That's how this works. The companies who can afford the lobbyists, they get their talking points in before the hearing.
Yeah.
And I think there was also, I can't remember what we were going to write about, but, sometimes, we'll join in with some sort of maybe a coalition type effort, sign our name to things to make sure that lawmakers are getting the correct information. So, yeah.
Yeah. I almost never get a real email back, but I definitely still get, the cookie cutter copy and paste email responses from Kristen Gillibrand and the office of Chuck Schumer, even though he's drowning in the war against nicotine pouches right now.
Yeah, right.
And so I still get those responses back, and I'm I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but I keep all of them. Yeah. Every email, every response that I've ever gotten back from a politician that I've written, a letter out to or sent a CASAA email out to, I keep all of them. Most of them are pretty boring to read through, but I've got every one of them. And then even still, there's been plenty where I don't necessarily get a response.
Now I'm thinking about it. Maybe that's why I don't reply to me anymore, because I posted out the bullshit form letters out on Twitter, That's probably why I don't get replies anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, if you're doing stuff in New York right now, there's sort of these perennial efforts by, I think it's Linda Rosenthal.
Linda B.
And there's a couple others, I think, that she's sort of dragged into her little coalition of anti-nicotine folks. But, there's been an anti-pouch flavors bill in New York State for, I think, a few sessions now. So like 6 years. And she's always trying to ban flavors. She's pushing sort of, kill it all kind of legislation. But, this year, really the only thing that might have been any significance was a PMTA registry bill in New York State, which would have actually improved things for New York, because we would have gotten flavors back if they would remove the flavor ban. But I'm sure that's not going anywhere, no matter how powerful the tobacco lobbyist is in Albany.
Right.
But yeah, if there's nothing really significant going on, messages to lawmakers may just sort of, take a back seat to, whatever's causing the most drama at the moment.
Sure. And that's not to say, though, that it's not, any time is a good time to reach out to your lawmakers, though, regardless of what's going on. It's always a good time.
And like Logan said, you're not going to talk to Chuck Schumer himself. You're going to talk to some poor son of a gun that has to answer the phone all day.
Yeah. I know.
Check marks a box, pro vaping, anti-vaping.
Yeah, I know that I've talked to so many people on Twitter over the years when we've put out call messages like urgent, like make the phone call now, pushes from CASAA, and folks are really intimidated to do that. And I've said it, I don't know how many times on this show, you're not going to talk to your senator. You're not going to talk to your representative. The chances of you actually communicating with them are pretty slim to none. You're going to speak to a staff member who really doesn't have any skin in the game. So as long as you're polite, you know, you share your story, you share why this is important to you, you share why you're opposing this bill. You don't have to talk for an hour. You can practice a 60-second little rundown and read it out to somebody and say, thank you for listening to my concerns. Have a great day. And that's the end of it. It doesn't have to be this, you know, huge thing. And I know a lot of folks still are intimidated and they get a lot of, you know, anxiety about making those phone calls and whatever, but it's really not as scary as it sounds.
You're not going to kill the bill with one phone call.
No.
And I think if it's helpful for people to know, you know, first of all, you know, the staffers in those offices, I mean, they do work for you. They work for the lawmaker, but you know, they're sort of, I mean, it's got to be one of the ultimate kind of customer service jobs, and they have to be on. I mean, they can't be nasty with you. So I'm sure that some people have, you know, encountered, you know, a prickly person on the other end of the phone. Maybe once they start talking about, oh, this is vaping or whatever. It depends on the context, you know, what was going on, what was in the headlines that day. But, you know, for the most part, the staffers are very approachable and they are nice and they do want to field your comments as long as they're not being overwhelmed with stuff. And it is good to, you know, be respectful of their time and keep it short. And, you know, in a 5-minute or less phone call, you can tell your story and why it's important that your lawmaker opposes or supports a bill. And that's it. It's say thank you, goodbye. And it's actually a pretty friendly conversation. It's not much of a conversation. It's really just a one-way kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've had
it really is.
Like calling the White House. I've had a couple nasty people because I think they're like volunteer, right? I think it's just volunteers that the people who answer the phone at the White House.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things. If you called like when we were, you know, encouraging everybody in the country to call, at some point in the day, they're just, oh God, it's another vape person. I can't believe this.
But even at the end of that, right, that means something. That's significant. If we've warned folks out from hearing about this, that means we're doing our job. Like we're doing the right thing because there are enough people calling and speaking up and using their voice to exhaust these people. If they're not tired, we're not trying hard enough.
Right. Now, I put it in the private chat. Michelle Minton put a new paper out this week, a couple days ago, about, you know, debunking all the hype about the fentanyl in the vape. So that's, and that paper's out there. And I missed it too. I just saw it today. But it's something. Good information for you guys.
Yeah, actually, if you wanted to drop the link to that, or I don't know if Addy actually can. Kristen might be able to. Kristen, if you could just drop the link to that. Yeah, thank you, Kristen. We've done a whole deal on the fentanyl and e-cigarettes show in the past. I don't know. We've had Michelle on. I believe we've had Michelle on the show.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get confused because some of the folks we've had here, I've had on previous programs of mine in the past. And I'm like, was that here? Was that?
That mind that just amazes you, that all the information she could just spew it out, man. It all makes sense. And it's amazing. I'm jealous.
While we're on the topic of just kind of advocating, and, you know, you said you had just seen this today. I'm assuming you saw this today on Twitter or X.
Yeah.
Let's talk about advocating online, because this is where I know you the best. This is where you are the powerhouse that you are. Addy is, I think I said this at the beginning of the show, maybe not, but Addy is constantly on Twitter, on X. Whenever I see a post go out that is just, you know, garbage, whether it's from a university or an organization or a politician, Addy is right there, right in the comment section with facts and numbers and stats, calling people out. And not only that, but you are also in like every YouTube show that I pop into. Addy is in chat and he's always dropping links, whether it's to CASAA or recent studies or calls to action or new articles or things that are out. I mean, this is advocating is what you do. It's like it's in your DNA somehow. I don't know how. It's like ingrained in your bones, but it's there. And I can't thank you enough for doing it. My big question is about burnout, because from a consumer advocate side, for people who have been doing this a long time, I know it's something that I go through. I know it's something that a lot of people go through. It's driven people to just walk right away from doing this, throw their hands up and just say, I can't do this. I can't beat my head against this wall anymore. How do you continue to do it, man? How do you keep your head above water in this sea of nonsense is what it feels like.
You guys sure help me, and it's that positive study that more and more positive studies come out, more and more, fuels that fire inside of me. It's like, we can win this,
Yeah.
And
yeah, have you ever had moments where you just like gotta walk away?
I've stepped away for a couple weeks at a time.
Sure. That's something that I've encouraged a lot of people.
Absolutely.
You can't just sit there day in and day out and attack everything you see online, because you'll drive yourself nuts, and it's not like your next tweet is not going to save the country here.
Right.
You're not going to bring down FDA with your next tweet.
Right.
So it is okay to take those breaks, and it's something I've definitely encouraged people to do over the years.
It's so nice because there's so many advocates now to step right in. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I know for folks who have been doing this for a long time, I tip my hat to you, because it's just with online, I think you have to pick that's something that I have really honed in on, because when my first few years of advocating, any post I saw, anything that I saw, I was in the comments like every single time. There are a lot of times now where I'm just like, I'll click on the comment section first, and I will see folks like Addy and everybody else in there dropping numbers, dropping facts, refuting things. The community notes section now on Twitter is a fantastic thing. And there are a lot of times where I'm like, you know what? You guys got this.
That's why
my one addition to this thread is not going to be the end all be all.
My knuckles are sore sometimes, because like you're giving me like a knuckle punch, and
yeah, but for folks out there that are feeling that, because there are plenty of folks feeling that, what do you say to them?
Just hang in there. Don't put your mental health at risk because there's people that got your back.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And it was nice to see that, with the threat of the FDA maybe going to the Supreme Court. That was another question I wanted to ask you guys. Do you think that's why FDA Tobacco CDC finally came out with a separate site now saying, well, we want to let doctors know that, if all else fails, you can tell them to try nicotine vaping. Do you think it's because of that case?
Talking about the
you're like at least partial robot right now.
Am I
okay?
Back?
No, you're good. You're back. Cool.
Back? Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about the it just came out this week, I think. I heard it from Charles Gardner when he was testifying in South Carolina. The sort of clearing up the myths or misperceptions of risks associated with nicotine, and it is unfortunately very limited in terms of being targeted at medical doctors and whatnot. But no, I don't know. I don't think that was a result of. I don't think that's like a lawsuit mitigation strategy. I think that is actually a result of all the work that I'm starting with us because we're here, but all the work that we've been doing, the work that folks who are attending e-cigarette summit are doing, a lot of the academics that are getting, the professionals, the tobacco control researchers who have sort of seen the light and come over to supporting harm reduction, vaping, nicotine pouches, and so on. So all of that work that's been going on for years. I mean, we've got to invoke Carl Phillips here. We've got to go back 20 or more years. Yeah, it's more than 20 and 25 years, something like that. So all of that work has finally come to a point where FDA now has this tiny little thing on their website, laser targeted at healthcare professionals. It's it's something I need to. I'm preparing for. I'm speaking. I've got 5 minutes in front of E-Cigarette Summit coming up next month, and that's something that will definitely be part of my short
You
time.
always do a good job at public speaking.
Thank you.
He's real good at rallying the troops, man. I'll tell you that.
I do a storytelling night here in Plattsburgh, and I've been actually involved in kind of local storytelling stuff for the past couple of years.
Cool.
That's been helpful in keeping me, I guess, desensitized to the stage fright.
Sure.
And Kristen said in the private chat too, yeah, and your personal testimonies, those are having an effect too.
Yep. Yeah, that's when I talk about CASAA and that's all of us. I mean, everybody who's ever participated in this, everybody who's written their story either on our testimonials or part of an email you send to your lawmakers. Customize your emails, share your story. It's very, very important. It's been, probably one of the most important parts of our mission, which is humanizing this whole debate. And there is a point where lawmakers and the regulator have to change their perspective. I think, being, wrapped up in a clinical, academic, sciencey kind of world, everything becomes, numbers and stuff on a spreadsheet, and they lose that connection. I mean, it's kind of science in a way, I think, requires people to do. That's part of, being objective. They want to see what the data show, not what someone feels about it. But the reality is that there's real blood and guts on the other side of those numbers, and we receive these policy decisions, regulations in different ways, and that's there's I'm about to wander into we need to be able to quantify that and blah blah blah, but all of that's important, and it does have an effect on people's perception of this.
Absolutely. And I think that's why we talk
re-ranks priorities in terms of communications, for example. I mean, the best thing that I hope to see in the next couple of years will be the campaigns, turning down the heat on their rhetoric. And if they could stop lying, that would be a great first step. If we could stop seeing, real cost campaigns trying to scare the pants off of kids, that would be another great first step. Hopefully what FDA is doing with this whole harm reduction communications for medical professionals is hopefully it leads to that. And hopefully we can, continue working on pushing them in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, going back to humanizing all of this. This is one of the reasons why we encourage when anybody does a call to action, at the top of that, or whether or not you choose to keep all of the stuff that we include in that email, but personalizing it and sharing your story and using your voice and all of that. That's why that's so important. Because it's the most powerful thing that you have in this debate is your story.
Yeah. I keep a lot of stuff in notepad folders. It doesn't take up any space on your hard drive at all. And it's, keep a folder with all that stuff, and you don't have to retype it every time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have a notepad that just on my desktop, it just says vape story. And every time I have to send an email to include it, I just click it and copy and paste, and there it goes. It hasn't changed,
Yeah. It makes it so much easier.
It does. It absolutely does. But it's so important, and that's why the testimonial page on CASAA exists, for that purpose, to give people a place to share that, to use their voice, and to put a person behind that number. Like Alex said, there's real blood and guts. There's a human being there with a life who succeeded in avoiding horrible, outcomes from smoking through this. And that matters. It matters just as much, I think, as the number that's added there. Like your story, you matter.
I did want to. Kristen dropped a note in the chat and backstage as well. Addy, I maybe I missed some of the earlier conversation with your local situation, and maybe there's sort of a pre and post flavor ban in New York, but just for example, for me, I remember when there was the flavor ban here, or maybe it was one of the first times, or it was a tax. I can't remember what it was, but I went around to the local vape shops and dropped off flyers and said, here, can I put this in the window, get your customers involved, point them to this, let's get involved. Have you done that stuff locally? And if so, what kind of reaction or what kind of reaction or support did you find from your local shops?
I have done that locally, and unfortunately, around here, all they seem to worry about is the sales. They don't seem to look at the longer, the continuum. They don't seem to get it about, well, if they ban all this stuff, are you going to go out of business? But I'd bring flyers in and say 20, 25 flyers, and there'd be one or two gone like the next week I went in there.
Wow.
That's why
I know
so much respect to the shops that actually push advocacy part about it.
Sure. I know CASAA, there are still actual e-liquid companies that have CASAA on the sides of their boxes.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really cool, and they still exist. And every time I'm in a shop and I see that, I bring it up. I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, CASAA. Oh, that's really cool. Do you know about CASAA? And every now and again, I'll get a yeah, CASAA is great. They're such a cool thing.
No,
and then I get more often than not, though. I get a no, I have no idea. And I'm like, well, let me tell you about it. I was actually just in a convenience store, gas station here in town, and I picked up a pack of pouches, and I had just kind of nonchalantly mentioned the cost of cigarettes nowadays here in New York. And the guy was the owner of the store, and it lit a fire right under him, right? This whole the government and taxes, and then he went on and on and on, and he's talking. He had mentioned they're even going after this, all this stuff, which is even safer for people. And I was like, there's my golden ticket right there. And so, I introduced myself, and we got on a whole big spiel about CASAA and things like that. So that was really good. And so I'm always looking for that opener in a conversation. If I meet somebody who's complaining about tobacco taxes, there's an open gate right there ready for me to swoop in and just have a quick discussion with somebody about things. And I'm always looking for somebody who's mad at the government. Those are the people I'm like, you're my people. Let me tell you.
Well, it's so hard nowadays to even to talk to smokers, because the disinformation is horrible.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I've limited to very short conversation now. I tell them about how some of the hospitals in England actually have vape shops in them, and hopefully it gets them to think about it, because they don't really want to hear anything.
Yeah. That's usually the one I drop on people who are sort of obviously skeptical or are filled with misinformation. It's like, no, they have vape shops in hospitals in the UK.
Yeah.
And I mean, the misinformation is rampant. And again, this goes back to FDA needs to be more forceful with correcting misperceptions of risk. I watched, I'm forgetting the committee hearing in South Carolina. It happened on, I think Thursday. There was a woman who testified that her son developed heart cancer from what sounds like intermittent use of a vape product.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't invent this. She was, this was something her son obviously needed to go to the hospital, and they found the tumor on his heart, and the doctors seemed to keep almost pressuring her for this answer. They kept asking her, does he vape? Does he use, nicotine, whatever? And that, I think, it convinced her that this is a nicotine issue. And it's just not. If that's the case, then he is the one person in the world who's developed this problem.
I never even heard it. I didn't even know it was a thing, Alex.
Because it's not. It's not.
It's not a thing. But I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Where's she from? Representative Tant. Oh God.
You want me to look her up?
Yeah, please do. But either way, there was a hearing where she was in where, and I quote, because I talked about this on one of my live streams, and I quote, she says, I believe she was talking about either her son or her friend's son or somebody she knew's son, and she says he had popcorn in his lungs.
Jeez.
In his lungs. She says it just like that. She goes, he had popcorn in his lungs. In his lungs.
You know,
This is
they were
Florida.
able,
Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was rolling. I was like,
and I think they were able to educate, Nick from the Florida Smoke Free Association had a meeting with her after that.
yeah. God,
And
I
now
hope
they're
so.
now they're like friends. So
Good.
he educated her all about that. And she
Yeah.
realized
Nick Orlando.
What's that?
Yeah.
Nick Orlando.
Yeah.
Great. Nick Orlando's a hell of a
He's
guy.
awesome.
But yeah, I remember seeing that and listening to that, and I was just like, I was blown away. Like it's 2024, I was taken back. I was like, what year is this? And how did he get popcorn in his lungs?
Well, it led to some
Like
pretty
I would be
funny
pointing the
emotional
finger at like
situations.
Orville Redenbacher or something,
Right.
not at vaping. If he's
It's
got
that-
legitimate popcorn in his lungs, that's a serious thing.
Logan,
that
I just
Dune
realized your
popcorn
sticker's
bucket.
gone from your microphone.
Nick met with her after, and I talked to her. Good on you, Skip. Good on you.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome.
But I mean, it just comes back to the point, right? Like there's so much misinformation. There's so much that our politicians are fed that is just blatant lies, and then that rhetoric is repeated in committee hearings and whatnot, and is supposed to. It blows my mind some of the things that we hear and what we hear our lawmakers say, which again doubles back to that point about reaching out and sharing your stories and continuing to do this work to correct that information.
Right. Now, Alex,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I met you. I was wrong about Kristen, but were you at Kevin Skipper's last VapeCon in Pittsburgh?
I went to Pittsburgh. Was it VapeCon?
Okay, so I'm not
man.
crazy. Okay, so we met there. We had a little conversation.
I think we did. Did you give me an
Yeah,
atomizer?
I gave you a K-Fun.
And it was I've still got it somewhere. I don't vape
Yeah.
anymore. But
That's a heat treated, what I call a Tuney fun, and I've got one of those too, and I cherish it.
yeah, I used that for. I may have continued using that up until I didn't vape anymore.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no, it was a great tank. Thank you. I got a lot of miles.
Oh
out
no,
of it.
I would just because I somehow as a mistake because I thought I met Kristen at the same time. Because I think you went there with somebody else, but
I know if it's the one I remember. I think I've only been to Pittsburgh. I've only been to one convention in Pittsburgh, and I was there with Ron Ward, and Bill Godshaw was there too. I actually got into a shouting match with Bill Godshaw later that evening. Yeah, that was the one thing out. I lived in Virginia for a long. I lived in, many years, and I never really hung out in Pittsburgh. So
what a cool city. I know that they had it was a nice advocacy talk there. I know Phil. I think Dimitri was there too. But,
yeah, there was a whole gang. That was actually where I think that somebody came up to me afterwards and was like, "You shouldn't wear a tie and a jacket to these things. Like you're not relatable." And I was like, "What? Like this is respect. I'm trying to be respectful of all the people who came to listen. Like you got to dress up, right?"
Now you got to walk in with a hoodie and tattoos and a beard and. We were talking before the show. I'm the textbook vape bro. None of my tattoos are visible, but I've got them. Plugs in my ears.
I just go with my CASAA shirt on.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Nice.
See this right here though. This is why they chose me to join CASAA. They were just like, we just need a vape bro on the board.
Yeah, we like your flannel shirt collection.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're rapidly approaching the end of the hour, so I just wanted to thank you, Addy, not only for coming on
and I crossed everything off on my list, so it's awesome.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and having this discussion and giving some great pointers to folks out there and discussing what it's like here in
I
New
appreciate
York.
you
And
guys. I appreciate all the work you guys doing. All the volunteer work.
yeah,
And what happened
yeah.
to the little guy on your microphone?
Oh, I got a new microphone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I still have that microphone though. It's Michael Scott from The Office. That's the little guy. Everybody asks me if it's Scott Gottlieb, but
I
it's
know I
not.
did too.
Yeah. But yeah, and I can't thank you enough too for just continuing to be the powerhouse advocate that you are all over the place. Like I said,
Oh,
no matter what vape stream I hop into, you seem to be there doing your thing, dropping links. I can't thank you enough for sharing all of the CASAA stuff that you share all over the place. I mean, every stream that I see, that I tune into, Addy's there dropping calls to action, the blog, dropping all these links. And I just thank you enough. I hope that people take the time to click on those and go to these things, because I know how much effort and time you put into doing all of it. So thank you for
Oh,
being
you're
the
welcome.
advocate that
No
you
need
are.
for thanks. It's I'm very thankful for you guys.
Well, that's all of us, man. That's all of us. That's the whole point of CASAA,
We're a
you know.
community, and we're an awesome community.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, Alex, did you have anything else before I spiel our way out the door?
Well, I'll do a very, very brief legislative update. Two things. South Carolina, I'm checking in to see what S994 is doing. That was the one that had the committee hearing on Thursday. And I think it may still be in committee. I'm not quite sure what happened on Friday. And then Iowa, the weird way they do things in Iowa, it's now HF 2677. I think I just had it up and I forgot it. Anyway, if you're in Iowa, go to our Iowa call to action. You can find it on the Clicky Map page, and you'll click on Get Involved, and then State and Local, and then click on your state shape in the Clicky Map and click on the deal. Yes, Iowa is got a vapor directory bill that passed both chambers and is headed to Governor Kim Reynolds' desk. And so we've now retooled that for a veto email going to her office. So if you're in Iowa, send those emails, call her office. I don't know what their situation is on the weekend. If they're not open, call them on Monday, first thing. And that's
we've
that's
had
what
a couple governors do veto, so it can happen.
Yep. Yeah, we've had some good vetoes and good, kind of adjustments made. The what ended up in Florida, which I don't know that that's passed yet or law yet, but that kind of worked out. Also, Vermont, Phil Scott vetoed the flavor ban. So we've had some successes this year.
Yeah, for sure. And every win is a win, big or
Right.
small. Every win is a win, and we'll take every last one of them. Well, thank you one last time to Addy for joining us, and thank you to everybody who tuned in today. Thanks for all the chats. Thanks for the fun time, everybody. If you have not yet become a member of CASAA, I cannot tell you enough. Please do it, like literally right now. You can leave the stream right now. Head over to CASAA.org, sign up to be a member. It's absolutely free. And we promise not to email you every 60 seconds with a bunch of garbage, just all the stuff you need to know when you need to know it so you can be the best advocate that you can be and get involved. Aside from that, if you're on Facebook, joining the Facebook state groups is a great way to be involved more locally, more in with your state, with fellow, members in your state. And it's a great way for us to get a heads up, especially on some of the smaller municipalities and things that we may not catch with our bill tracking and things like that. Again, it's a great way to be involved because it takes all of us. It doesn't just take a village. It takes literally all the villages to be CASAA. So join your state Facebook group. You can also head over to CASAA.org. And if you are inclined to donate to the cause and help CASAA continue to do what CASAA does, we do have a donate button that you guys can click on. And any amount is a great amount. We definitely encourage, if you can afford to and you are able to, setting up a reoccurring donation is the best way to help us so we know what we've got going forward so we can continue to do all the things. If you're inclined to be like Addy, because that's a great, who was it who was it? Good life advice. Be like Addy. You can pick up a CASAA t-shirt so you too can be a walking billboard of tobacco harm reduction. It helps us and you get some sweet swag. Other than that, let's see. What am I missing on the spiel? What else do we have on the spiel?
I'm going to check the private chat, but I think you got it all.
Okay, yeah. Kristen will tell me what I'm missing. Oh, okay.
I think we're good.
Yeah, cool. All right. Other than that, this goes live everywhere. You can replay anywhere. And then today I'm going to take this audio. It'll be available tonight or early tomorrow morning. If you want to share audio versions or tell your friends who like podcasts, things like that, it'll be available everywhere as well. I don't believe currently that we have any weird scheduling stuff for 2 weeks from now.
I'm not going to be here on the 4th. So that'll
it'll be me and Kristen.
You will be in the capable hands of Logan and Kristen.
Yes. I don't know about capable, but you'll be in the hands of Logan and Kristen. That's either scary or encouraging. I don't know which. But as far as I know, we will have a show 2 weeks from now, same time, same place, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or over on, I still call it Twitter. I just hate calling it X, but X. There you go. Over on X.
I love those community notes, man. Community notes rock.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you, replay crew. If you're tuning in, if you watch this all the way to the end, you're fantastic. Please share, subscribe, like, click all the buttons, do all the things, you guys. Be excellent to each other out there. And just as importantly, be excellent to yourselves. We will see you next time.